Yeah, so Christina, the reason
Yes.
why I'm running these classes is because a little while back, about a couple of months ago, I did a presentation with Ralph Preston, who's a really good stroke survivor friend of mine. And it was about how to create a blueprint in your brain. In other words, how to teach your brain how to actually rewire itself or teach itself how to learn new things in your recovery after stroke. So in other words, how to like your brain goes through a natural process of learning how to do things before your stroke, and it's very applicable to after stroke. So basically learning how to teach your brain how to learn things a lot quicker by catering to how it prefers to learn. And since I did that presentation, I've been getting a lot of questions from stroke survivors around Facebook around how to actually apply what I taught, because I did share a 5-step sort of formula or framework to actually structure your exercises so that you can actually see results and continue to see changes as you progress in your recovery, even when people have told you that you've plateaued or you've come to a standstill, and that's the best route you're ever going to recover. So rather than answering all of these questions on Facebook and just going through hundreds of messages, I thought that it might be a good idea to host a weekly class, which is on my Facebook group, Stroke Survivors Community, which I believe you've joined, where I'm able to answer questions from stroke survivors, so that other stroke survivors can watch these classes, and they can, I guess, get some clarity on how to, I guess, further improve in their recovery after stroke, and what to do so that they can start seeing more improvements, even though they've been told by, let's say, their therapist or their insurance company that there's no more recovery. And yeah, so that's basically why I wanted to run these classes. It's basically to, I guess, help stroke survivors learn how to start to see more changes in their recovery after stroke, especially those who have come to a standstill, where maybe they're noticing that they're not seeing as many improvements as before, or maybe they've just been told by the therapist that this is it, this is the best you're ever going to get, and you're not going to recover anymore, because there is a general consensus, and this is medieval knowledge, that most therapists believe that the most recovery happens in the first 6 months of your stroke, and after that first 6 months or after that first year, then you're done, and that's pretty much your recovery. But that's actually wrong. And as a stroke survivor myself, and also one who is paid to coach others to see more results in their recovery after their stroke, I have seen the opposite, and I've helped other stroke survivors actually be able to see results even when they've been told that it's not possible, and that's the best they're ever going to get. So what I'm wanting to do in these classes is I'm wanting to, I guess, address any questions any stroke survivors might have about questions, and I guess have a brainstorm around different ways that you could modify whatever exercises you're doing so that you can start to see more improvements in your recovery. Because one exercise, there is no such thing as a one and done exercise or a magical exercise which is going to get you to recovery. The lifespan of an exercise typically is about 3 months, and that's when you get to a plateau and you no longer see improvements, because your brain tends to go on autopilot and it reaches a threshold of how much it feels it's able to learn from that exercise. So in order to keep recovery going, you have to keep modifying things, which is a huge dilemma in stroke recovery, and why we have this situation where a lot of people are looking for that magic bullet, that magic fix, when really the magic bullet or that magic fix is knowing how to modify things as you go along, so that your brain is able to continue to justify to itself that there's a reason that it needs to work harder to recover a lot more. So
yes, I did, I did see that in my own recovery, because I didn't even get to start any kind of PT until 1.5 months post, because I was stuck in the hospital and I couldn't even sit up. So there was no PT and I had COVID. So they pretty much shoved me in a room and would only come in gowned in a like a hazmat suit
Yeah.
whenever they needed to. And that was really hard because I knew nothing. I didn't know anything. So, and of course, my cognitive got hit. So I wasn't with it enough then to really question. And I never found the Recovery Stroke Group Facebook page until I was like 3 months, 3 months post, 2 months post. So I had already recouped a lot, and I didn't even start walking until after three months. That was it. So I knew, because of course they tell you in the hospital that 6 months is you got to do as much as you can in 6 months, or you're not going to get as many gains as you are going to want. So that's what I had in my mind. 6 months. I worked my ass off, but I found that if I rested and listened to my body, it did things pretty, much on its own. So I really had no guide. There was no guide. I just did what I was told.
Yeah.
People would come in after I got the rehab and say, do this. Okay, well, I would try and do that. There was no, oh, I don't think I can do that, or I can't do that. Nope, do this. Okay, I'm gonna do that. And nope, can't do that. Okay, you can't do that yet. Do this. Okay. And that just kept going down until they could find something that I could do to go forward.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Right. I mean, I'm so glad you shared that with me, and I'm sure a lot of stroke survivors would resonate with that. So basically, I had a similar experience when I went through therapy. I don't live in the States, by the way. I live in Australia. You can probably tell by my accent, but I've talked with enough stroke survivors to really understand, what the typical storyline and what the typical experience is. So I completely hear where you're coming from. So my intention with these classes is I guess pull behind the curtain and just share with you guys, the why behind how to actually exercise so that you can actually see more changes, rather than just picking exercises and ticking off check boxes of what you have tried and what you haven't, because it can be quite frustrating going in stroke, having a checklist of things you haven't tried and have tried. But rather than doing that, it's a lot easier to just be able to know how to change up what you're doing so that you can start to see changes. For one, it saves you more money because you don't have to look for that next gadget or that next quick fix, which is promising to cure you overnight. And number two, it gives you more confidence that you have more control over your recovery and a lot more certainty of what works and what doesn't. So I guess, we only have the four of you here. The floor is yours for any questions you guys want to ask about, exercises you're doing. And I guess what are some things you could do to continue to progress in your recovery after stroke? Yeah, so if any one of you guys has a question, just type it in the chat box, or you can put up your hand. I think there's a hand emoji on the bottom. Okay. Judy, go ahead. What is let me just unmute you first. You're still unmuted. Okay, there we go. I can hear you now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. I had my stroke July the 30th. It was a hemorrhage. And so I have left side weakness. I was a month in a rehab hospital, and then I was 2 months in a subacute care facility. So I am walking with a cane slowly but surely. And I've been home for about a month, and I am walking around my house everywhere I can walk. I'm walking, but with a cane. And full disclosure, I do have an AFO on my left leg, my left foot. I do have a nice big counter in my kitchen, and so I'm doing the so-called counter exercises that I picked up from Ralph. But I find that I'm not able to do as many repetitions as I would like. I'm trying to work my way up, but I'll tell you, this stroke fatigue is a real thing. And my biggest challenge is doing kickbacks.
Right. What you mean,
Those
bending
are
a knee up?
difficult for me.
Yeah.
So I'm very motivated to do as much as I can, but like I think Christina has said, there is no blueprint here, that nobody takes you by the hand and says, okay, this is what you need to be doing. So it's very frustrating to try to find your way through. I'm doing lots of sit to stands and trying to get my knee to stay straight. But I'm definitely looking for help in the way of exercise.
Yeah.
Because I definitely want to get my body stronger for more recovery.
Okay. So what do you want to achieve most, Judy? When you mention recovery, that's very ambiguous. My interpretation of recovery is very different to yours.
Sure.
Like
sure. The big thing for me is I would like to be able to walk.
Okay. All right.
That's
Great.
my number one goal.
Yeah. So that's more concrete. So what? I mean, obviously you're walking around the house with a cane right now. So I'm just assuming, based on what you've told me, that you want to be able to walk independently, or at least improve the way you walk with the cane.
Yes. Is
that right?
Yes, that's it.
And you mentioned that fatigue is an issue. Well, it's not your words, but you mentioned fatigue was a factor in that you wanted to you couldn't do the kickbacks, or was it knee bends? That's right. Is that right?
Well, I have a number of exercises that I'm doing, but I'm finding it hard to build up the repetitions.
Yeah. Okay.
And maybe I'm not resting as much between the exercises as what I probably should.
Okay.
I'm a little over.
Yeah, go on. Were you done? I didn't want to interrupt you.
No. I just want to say I think I'm a little bit over ambitious during the day with a lot of walking and trying to do as much exercise as I can. I might be a little bit over ambitious.
Yeah, that's a high quality problem. So what? I mean, would you mind me asking you? I mean, I don't think the repetitions is a huge issue at this point in time. What I'm more interested in is what happens when you walk, because are you able to walk without the assistance of the cane?
No.
Okay. So may I actually just
small distances. I can't walk without the cane. No.
Okay. So what
at this point?
So what happens when you walk? I'm just curious. I'm just going to ask you some questions because usually in recovery after stroke, walking follows a very stereotypical pattern in the way that your brain likes to recover it. I'm just curious, whenever you walk, you mentioned that you were left side affected, right?
Yes.
Do you notice that whenever you're walking that you're spending a little bit more time on your strong side, so your right leg compared to your left? Maybe you're leaning over a bit to your right and then you're lifting your left.
Well, it's an interesting comment. I'll tell you, I posted a video on Stroke Buddies and got some interesting feedback from Ralph, who noticed that, well, his comment was that I needed to build my upper leg strength. I'm not swinging my leg around. I am able to lift my affected leg at the hip.
Yeah. Okay.
My best to get my heel to strike, which is somewhat of a challenge.
Yeah, I see. So I haven't actually seen the video because Stroke Buddies isn't my group. I am active on Stroke Buddies sometimes, but obviously I don't live in the States, so I miss posts and all that. So I haven't seen that video. But it sounds like what you've said is that when you're walking, it sounds like you're lifting up your left leg mainly from the hip. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's, I think what you've shared, it actually might be a potential reason why you're still walking on the cane, because when your brain is learning how to recover walking after stroke, it tends to want to recruit the easiest muscles it can, especially in walking, to get the leg going. So instead of recruiting the quadriceps muscles, which is basically the muscle at the front of your knee, which help you to lift up your leg and also heel strike or plant your heel down, your brain has learned to recruit and use the big muscles at the hip to sort of help lift up the leg. So that's kind of the reason why. So that's kind of the reason why Ralph made that comment about the heel strike. In a way, it's kind of good because you can walk, that's good, and it's a compensation approach. That's usually how recovery starts, is that it starts with compensation, and then gradually as you get better, the movements get more refined. But I think one thing you could do to improve your recovery and progress towards walking is you've probably got to re-educate your brain on how to fire those muscles in a way such that it's not turning on more muscles than necessary, because the reason why you're using your hip mainly to lift up your left leg right now is because your brain is using a lot of effort to lift up the left leg, probably more effort than necessary, and it's recruiting the hip muscle because it's the easiest to recruit. So one thing you could do is, rather than focus on heavy repetitions, is more targeted training to teach your brain how to actually send those signals to the muscles in your leg, so that you can teach your brain how to walk with more of a rhythm rather than heaving the left hip up when you're walking. So what exercises are you doing right now? You mentioned the knee bends. What other ones are you doing?
Knee raises, leg lifts to the side. I mentioned the kickbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Sit to stand.
Okay. And how are you doing the sit to stance, just out of curiosity? you
Usually sitting in a chair,
Okay.
standing.
And what's your thought process behind the sit to stand? Do you just
I'm
get up and
sorry.
sit? What's
Yeah.
your thought process behind the sit to stand?
I usually I don't come up all the way
Yeah.
out of the chair. I come partially out of the chair,
Mm-hmm.
enough that my bottom is off the chair
Yeah.
seat.
And the reason why I asked that is because the sit to stand exercise is actually there's a reason why it's recommended a lot. It's because the sit to stand exercise, it teaches your brain how to distribute equal amounts of weight on both your legs so that you can learn how to walk with more of a rhythm. Because before your stroke, the way that your brain walked is that both your legs will take on 50% of your body weight. But after stroke, what tends to happen in recovery, and because your brain is naturally lazy and wants to compensate, is that your brain actually learns how to walk by using the stronger leg to do most of the work. So rather than you having 50% of body weight on both legs, you end up having your strong leg or your right leg take on maybe 80% of your body weight, and 20% and your left leg or your affected leg in this case take on 20% of your body weight, which results in things like your hip lifting up quite a lot when you walk. So I'm just wondering if you're looking to improve your walking, one thing you could do is change the way you do your sit to stand. And I'm just curious, if you're up for it, would you be open to showing me one right now?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. In fact, I'm
And
sitting in the
actually,
chair.
before you start, can we just pause? Do
Sure.
you know the nose over toes thing?
Yes.
Okay, so do the nose over toes and just do that for me. And just do one.
Yeah.
Is that it? Okay. Okay, so have a break right now. I'm not sure if you noticed it, Judy, but did you notice that when you're doing your sit to stand that you were leaning a little bit more towards your strong side? It's almost like you were twisting over.
Yeah. I didn't come up well on both feet.
Yeah. Okay. So that's one thing you could change. And the reason why you're twisting towards your right and you feel that you're not coming up on both feet is because the way you're doing the sit to stand one right now, sit to stand exercise, is that your brain has learned how to rely mainly on your strong leg or the strong side to do most of the work. Whereas an effective sit to stand is supposed to teach your brain how to use both legs to actually support the weight of your body. So try it again, but this time, what I want you to try and hold on and hold on to a table in front of you just in case. I want you to try doing a sit to stand. Again, doing your nose over toes, but this time, instead of leaning towards your right, as you naturally do, I want you to try leaning towards your left side as you go up. Okay, and tell me how that feels.
Much better.
Yeah, exactly. Does it feel different to what you were doing before when you were twisting to your right and you said that you didn't feel like you were coming up on both feet?
Right. Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So I would start there. And that's basically, I would say that might be the root of, that might be a reason behind why you're not seeing as much progression as you would like in your walking, especially with the cane. I mean, unless you're a fan of walking with the cane for the rest of your life.
No.
It's it really comes down to the fundamentals, which is teaching your brain how to distribute equal weight across both your legs. What a cane does is it gives your brain, it works because it gives your brain a strong base of support to rely on to support the weight of your body. So the cane is actually doing the job of your left leg.
Yes.
But we want to teach the brain how to teach the left leg to take on the weight of your body, just like before you had your stroke, which is exactly what we did here. So the first sit to stand you did, where you were twisting and you didn't feel like you were coming up with both feet, is because you were mainly just using your strong leg. In other words, you were teaching your strong leg to just compensate and just re-looping that pattern of telling your brain it's okay to do the lazy way or the compensation approach. But the second attempt, the reason why I felt better is because you were teaching your brain how to distribute equal weight across both legs, which in turn will translate to walking without the cane, because you're training up your brain to put more weight on your left leg. And as that gets a lot stronger, what you can expect to see as you persist with this is that you might notice that your walking might feel like you're getting into a little bit more of a rhythm, and you might not get as much of that hip, that heaving of the left hip when you're walking. So I would start from there.
I have a question for you, because this was another observation that Ralph made, and that was to go to a 2-point walking pattern with the cane rather than a 3-point. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Okay, so I know what a single point one. A single point is obviously your typical just cane. A 2-point, I'm not.
Yeah, no. He's talking about moving the cane and my left foot at the same time and then walking with my right foot.
Okay,
So
I'm a little bit confused here.
the pattern I use now is cane, left foot, right foot.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
I think Ralph's point was to move the cane and my left foot at the same time and then move my right foot.
Oh, okay.
You have a comment on that?
Yeah, I think if you're wanting to, I think if you're wanting to really train up your left leg, and so that you can walk independently, well, there are 2 routes you can take. The stick first approach, that would work if you're going downstairs. So if you have stairs, the stick first approach would work, because the stick is going to help support the weight of your body as you're going downstairs. But in terms of everyday walking, if your focus is on returning to walking, I would focus on taking that first step with your left leg, and then your right. So kind of like a lunge, but not really, right? And then focus on bending that left knee if you can.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is something called part practice. Have you heard of it?
No. Is that
Okay.
POD? POD? Pod?
No. Oh, right. Okay. So I'm Australian. I meant part practice. PART. Let me type it in. Part practice. Okay, I will type it in because my accent is different to American. So I will type it in and you'll see what I mean. Can you see that?
Yes, part practice.
Yeah, part practice. See, I pronounce part as part practice. So basically what this means is that with every exercise, you can either perform it as a whole like in its entirety, or you can break it down into components. So what I'm saying with this is that because your focus is on walking, and because your left leg, it's your left leg, it's still learning how to navigate things on its own. The goal is to re-educate your brain how to send those signals to your left leg. And once it's done that, it's able to integrate what you're doing when you're exercising to walking. So what you're doing is you're working on one component at a time and refining it, and then you're putting them all together to practice when you're actually walking.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
perfect sense.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry about the pronunciation. I'm just not American.
That's okay.
Yeah. So I think if you're looking to walk, the fastest track is to be intentional about the way you walk. So really concentrate on, each step as you take it, especially the left step, or the first step you take with your left leg, because your right leg's always going to be good. Your brain just needs your brain just needs your left leg to work, and then they can connect the dots between the two. Any questions about that? Judy, are you still with me? Or
Oh, yes, I'm here.
yeah, so I just want to ask you, did you have any questions about that?
Oh, probably about a million questions, but I understand what you're saying about breaking down the walking bit by bit and being able to put my best effort into each part of the walking pattern. It's just my lack of knowledge. Here I've walked for many, many years right before my stroke, but ask me how I did it, I can't tell you.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it
know
is
what it looked like.
It's it's so you can either go by your brain's agenda, which is doing everything the compensation way or easy way, where to using the strong leg to walk and just letting the left leg just relax and chill, or you can teach your left leg to actually function on its own, and because you've got the right leg already, then your brain's just going to integrate the both together.
Yeah, no, I don't want to be compensating with my right leg. I want to
Yeah,
teach
exactly.
my leg how to walk.
Yeah. And I'm glad you raised that up, because stroke recovery, it's more about re-education than just doing the exercise. I mean, exercise does play a role, but you've got to be intentional about the way you exercise, because you are educating your brain and you're fixing what's on the inside out. Otherwise, your brain is just going to just relax and then do whatever it wants, which is just rely on the strong side to do everything.
And it's not what I want to do.
Yeah, exactly. So I would encourage you to start there. I think that might be a good step to take first, to actually re-educate your brain how to distribute equal amount of its body weight across both legs, doing that sit to stand. And in terms of the knee bends ones, those ones, they are worthwhile, but it might be a different time and place for those. I think walking starts really from how your brain distributes weight across both legs. And if you start with a sit to stand, and you get quite competent at that, then you can start to add more exercises into your routine so that you can continue to push your brain's blueprint of how it knows how to walk.
I do a lot of weight bearing on my left leg too. Just standing.
Yeah, exactly. Standing is also a good one. I mean, if you can stand and you can put your left leg maybe 1.5 inches behind your right in a staggered stance, that's something you could practice in addition to it. You know, just if you're just something you could do as you're going about your day. Say if you're waiting at the dinner table, and you're about to eat, that's something you could try. And there are other exercises, but the one I just shared with you, the sit to stand, and the way we modified it together to teach your brain how to develop that blueprint, that's what I know to be one really effective way. And it's one way which I show my paying clients to help them get results in their recovery.
Good.
Well,
Thank you.
to try that one, and hopefully in the next class, you can come back and you can share with everyone, whether or not you've seen any changes.
Okay.
But other than that, does that sound like a good place to start before I
Absolutely.
move on to other people? Okay. So we have about 15 minutes left. Does anyone else have any questions about exercises and things I would like help with, similar to Judy? You can raise up your hand or type it in the okay. Chris, do you prefer Chrissy or Christina? I'll just say Christina.
I don't care.
Okay,
You can
Christina.
say whatever. Yes.
What is going on?
My biggest thing that I have the hardest time letting my PT and OT people, that I was paralyzed on my left side, but I still had feeling in my left side, but the paralysis was more in my back. So my hips and my back, I wasn't able to, I'm still have that problem. I do walk with a cane too, but only because I need it for balance. I don't have very good balance. I can turn and fall down because my stroke was in the brain stem. So I keep saying that I need something to strengthen my back. And I know some exercises, the hip ones where you lay flat and you raise your hips up and hold it there. I know that, but I can't figure anything else out. And I can't get to my PT to help me that. He's just concentrating on my legs. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay, yes, my legs do need work, but my back needs more work than my legs. Yes, but I can't get them to understand that. So.
Okay. So the exercise you're talking about, is it the bridge exercise? I'm just assuming.
Yeah.
Okay. And how are you doing the bridge exercise now?
Well, I do them in my bed because it's hard to get on the floor.
Yeah, of course.
Let alone hard to get back up. So I do them in the bed, and so I bend my legs and to triangle shape.
Yeah,
and
I know.
Then I put my hands to my side, and then I try to use those muscles to lift up my hips which is unfortunately the biggest part of me, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
so I want something that is not just the bridges to help build up my back muscles so I have normal posture because I'm always going hunched over and to be able to walk steady. It's slowly getting better, but I want something that I can actually work towards to make it a little better.
Yeah. Okay. So how long have you been doing these bridges for?
Not, how do I want to say it? Not religiously, but I have been doing them since I could actually move my hips.
Okay. And how long has
Probably
that been?
month 2. Yeah, month 2. So 10 months.
Okay, so
But
10 months and you haven't seen any improvement since? Like you mentioned it's
yes,
slowly getting better.
tiny. Yes. Slowly getting better. Yeah, maybe I want it to be quicker and it's not gonna happen, but I think there's gotta be some other exercise I can do besides the bridges. Because for a long time I couldn't move that part of my body. There was no,
I think she dropped out. Did she drop out or?
Oop. Her screen froze up or something.
Yeah, no, I can never tell if it's myself because my net's obviously sometimes a bit dodgy, but I think I think she froze up. Here she comes. She's back in the room. Now I'm seeing double.
Yeah.
Oh, there she is.
okay, sorry. Between the raining where you're at, William, and the snowing where I'm at, this is
Yeah.
not very good. But I'm trying to find a different exercise to just do bridges. 'Cause
Yeah, I hear you.
yes,
I
yeah.
mean, perhaps this is just a suggestion. You could maybe perhaps because of the internet over in your end where it's snowing, you could you could remain off video, so that it doesn't
Okay.
affect your net, and then I can
Put
just
the paper
talk you
down
through
there.
it. So, oh wait, there you are. So you're on video now.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to turn it off?
Oh no, I was just giving you the option, because I know video
Oh.
takes up a lot of internet.
Let's try and turn that off then.
Yeah, it's up to you.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's not that I don't want to see your face or anything.
Oh, well, you don't need to see it. So as long as you can hear it and I can hear you, we're good.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm just curious. So you've been doing these bridges for 10 months, since month 2. And which side are you affected again?
I was more affected on the left side, but my strokes hit both sides of my brain because I had basically a bilateral,
Yeah.
because I
Okay.
had 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the side that was affected the most was my left side that was paralyzed, and that
Yeah.
was my dominant side. But I do have ataxia on both sides. So
Right.
fine motor skills, not good.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
So as my body's slowly waking up, I'm able to do more. So I think I can do more, but I'm not getting anybody to help me to make changing up my to get my back muscles together.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing I want to say is that bridges are actually a really good exercise for your back, but they're only really good if you're doing them correctly. So
Yeah.
the whole intention of bridges, like the whole reasoning why therapists and why people suggest bridging, is because bridging, like sit to stands, it also teaches the intention of bridges is that it teaches your brain how to distribute weight across both sides of your body, under a condition where you can't really cheat that much. Because when you're doing a bridge and you're going up at that incline, essentially what you're doing is you're training up some of the muscles in your legs, as well as some of the muscles in your trunk or in your back as well.
Yeah.
So a bridge,
that makes sense.
but like I said, they're only really effective if you do them right. And they're very easy to do wrong because, as I mentioned to Judy earlier, your brain has a natural agenda of wanting to do things the easy way, which means that it wants to naturally move towards compensating or cheating with the stronger leg to get by with doing the exercises or the stronger side. So a very common mistake with bridges is that when people do them in hospital, they're able to do like hundreds of them, but they end up doing them wrong because it's their strong leg doing all the work of just going up and down.
And that doesn't help.
No, it doesn't help. And based on what you told me, that you've been doing them for the last 10 months and you've been seeing improvements, little small improvements, but nothing significant. It wouldn't be unreasonable to say that your brain has gotten to a point where it probably feels like it's mastered that exercise, or that exercise has to be modified in some way so that your brain can wake up and it can tell itself that it needs to work harder to actually train up those muscles which you're trying to target, such as your back muscles and also some of your leg muscles required in walking as well. So have you seen the blueprint video? You did, right?
I'm not sure. I don't know if I did or not, to be quite honest.
So it's okay if you haven't, but basically, in that blueprint video, what I like, if you have time, I would recommend that you watch it. It is in the announcement tab or feature tab in my group or Ralph's group. But basically, in this blueprint, what I say is that you've got to continuously modify the way you do your exercises so that you can see improvements. And because you've been doing these bridges for so long and you haven't been seeing a big significant improvement, what you could do to really teach your brain, actually, because you've been doing these bridges for such a long time and you haven't seen much improvement, it might be because your brain's relying more on your stronger leg to do most of the work when you're doing your bridges. Because that's a very easy mistake to do, especially in recovery after stroke. So one thing you could do is to actually modify the way you do your bridges so that your brain is actually able to have an idea that it's distributing equal. Oh, Lillian, are you leaving, or did you have a question next?
I was just going to tell you something about bridges that I do.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Go
I
ahead.
do bridges with one leg at a time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, bridges with one leg at a time, they do work as well, and they're very effective. But depending on where you're at, and I don't know where you're at, because I'm not too sure. Like, if you're comfortable doing bridges with one leg, they might be worthwhile. But it just depends on how strong your left leg is and how well it's able to support the weight of your body. That also works. But to start off, what I would do, like one thing I could suggest that you do is do you have like a pillow or a squishy ball at home with you?
Yes.
Okay, so one thing you could do to actually modify the way you do your bridges so you can see more results and you can do them correctly without the risk of your stronger leg wanting to cheat or your brain wanting to cheat, is you can actually use a pillow and you can place it between both of your legs when you're doing the bridge, and you can try and squeeze that pillow in between both your legs as you're going up.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And what this does is it actually gives your brain a reference point as to whether or not it's doing the bridge the correct way. Because if you're able to keep the pillow in between both your legs or the ball between both your legs, depending on which route you want to go, then you know that you're distributing equal weight across both of your legs and you're doing the bridge correctly. However, if you're,
Yeah.
did you want to say something or?
Well, no, I just wanted to say then that kind of makes sense of why my PT is focusing on my legs, because if I don't have strong enough legs, I'm not going to be able to lift equal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So yeah, I do know what you mean. So with this bridge, when you put the pillow in between your legs and you try to squeeze it, like I mentioned, if you're able to keep the pillow between both your legs as you go up, then you know that you're training both legs and you're teaching your brain how to distribute equal weight across both of your legs. And you know that you're not cheating. You know that your brain's not cheating by using the stronger leg to do most of the exercise. However, if you find that the pillow drops when you're going up doing your bridges, you know that something's wrong and you know that your brain is cheating because it's using one leg to support the weight of your body more than the other when it should be 50-50.
Right. Wow. It wants to cheat because the brain's tired.
Yeah. So likewise with what I said, Judy, you have to put your brain in situations where you're really educating it on the correct way to do things. Otherwise, if you put it in situations where it can get away with doing things the easy way or compensating, then you can get into the situation where you're doing an exercise for months and months on end, thinking that you're getting improvements when you're just doing activity and you're not really learning anything. You're just re-looping the same thing over and over again.
The wrong way. Yeah.
Yeah. But when you modify exercises so that you're very strict with your brain and you're teaching your brain something very targeted, then that's when real learning occurs. In fact, the more specific an exercise is and the more targeted it is, and the more reference points it gives to your brain on how to do something and what it feels like to do something like you used to before your stroke, then the more likely you're able to see changes and results in your recovery.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So we have about 1 minute left, 1 or 2 minutes left. I just want to leave a window open. Does anyone have any other questions or would like to share any improvements?
I
Lillian?
do.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hello,
last week
Lillian.
I do this shoulder shrug 50 times on my right side and
Yeah.
then lift my arm on the left side the next morning. I did notice that I get more movement out of my arm this week than I did last week.
Oh, wow. That's a big improvement because I remember
Yeah.
last week you could barely go up.
I know.
Yeah. So how does that feel?
It feels great.
Yeah.
Yeah, my fingers though, they're really sore when they move.
They're really sore when you move?
Yeah, like they hurt. I feel like I have arthritis in my fingers.
Yeah. So are you on a pacemaker or are you on a heart monitor or
I
anything?
have a loop recorder, but not a pacemaker.
Okay. So usually if you didn't have a pacemaker or a loop recorder, I would suggest electrical stimulation to free up the fingers. That would be one way to go. But one thing with your fingers, and I think this is something which we could investigate further because we only do have the 1 minute left and it's about the top of the hour, is you could potentially, are you doing any weight bearing stretches with your left leg, with your left hand?
I do when I'm in therapy.
Yeah, but what about at home?
No, she tells me not to do it at home.
Yeah, so you might want to consider doing those at home.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you might want to consider doing those at home because what tends to happen in recovery after stroke is that the blueprint for your hand, it tends to shrink. It tends to shrink the more you don't use your hand. So your stroke wasn't so long ago, right? As I recall.
6 months.
Yeah, 6
Last
months.
May. Yeah.
So you can really capitalize on this time by really stretching out your hand, because that way you can preserve the blueprint in your brain of what's your of how to use your hand. So I would encourage you to do those same weight bearing exercises for your hand, therapy that you are at home,
Okay.
because that would really accelerate your recovery. I mean, it just depends how fast you want to go. If you want to get there quicker, you know, it's going to take work. You can't rely on the one visit per week to the therapist to do that. So
Right.
I would recommend going with the hand stretch every single day and be very rigorous. Vigilant about this.
Uh-huh.
But other than that, I'm really glad to hear that. I'm really glad to hear that you got a lot of improvement in your left shoulder. It looks really good. I would say
Yeah.
that's a 20% improvement.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can continue if you want to build on that left arm, you can continue practicing trying to lift up your left arm. You know, whenever you're around the house, I wouldn't go with the shrugs now that you've actually got the lifting. So if you're watching TV,
Pilates ring to get movement in my left arm too. I
sorry,
lay on the bed. I hold a Pilates ring with both hands and I lift it over my head.
yeah, that one's good as well. I think now that you've got the movement in your left arm and you can lift it up, you know, whenever you have a moment as you're going about your day, if you're watching TV or if you're eating at the table, you could try and lift up your left arm and put it on the table. Those are just a few ideas. So does that make sense? Any questions about that?
No.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
we're reaching about the top of the hour. Like I mentioned to Christina, I'm doing these every single week on Wednesday, 7 o'clock Eastern time, and I plan on doing these until the new year, even on Christmas, maybe. Yeah, probably on Christmas week, because this is a new thing, and I'm really enjoying helping stroke survivors like yourselves really see some changes and improvements, like yourself, Lillian, this week with being able to lift up your arm a lot higher. So I'm not sure if you guys are in my stroke survivors community group, but I will post a reminder and a registration link on how to register for the next class in my group and also Ralph's group as well. And hopefully I can see some of you next week and I can hear more about the improvements. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to stop recording now. I'm really glad to hear that you saw some improvements. Judy, I'm looking forward to hearing how you go with those sit to stands as well. And
Thank you.
hopefully we're able to see each other next week.
Yeah, and I'm going to work on the